Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
This is Radio Katipunan 87.9 FM, the voice of the Blue Eagle.
Oh, Fabio! 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 Ready? 1, 2! Fabio! Fabio! Hey! Initiativa! Ina! Initiativa! Ra!
Are you feeling sore? We can make that better. Tune in to the Ateneo Senior High School's first radio program, SOAR, the Seniors On Air Radio. Don't change that channel yet, because SOAR is ready to put the U Katipunan 87.9 FM. Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. This is your stop for all things pop. Catch our all-around pop culture geek Chola Sediaren as he throws in some dose of what's poppin' and what's hot in the pop culture scene here on Popcorn 7.9 FM. Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Palalimin ang kamalayan sa mga isyong napapanahon. Makisangkot at makiisa kasama ang simbahang lingkod ng bayan. Ang Social-Political Apostolate ng Kapisanan ni Jesus. Ito ang Kwentuhang Bayan mula alas 11 ng umaga tuwing Biyernes dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Dahil naniniwala kami na posible ang isang mas mabuting lipunan at maaari itong simulan sa isang kwentuhan.
Lamig, init, ulan, hangin, kumakalingang kalikasan. Ating alagaan at ingatan. Kumusta na ang ating kalikasan? Pag-usapan natin ang kalagayan ng mundo at kung paano tayo makatutulong sa pagkalinga sa ating tahanan. Kasama sina Father J.M. Manzano ng Kapisanan ni Jesus at si Dr. Abercio V. Piroton. Ito ang Tatak Kalikasan sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Susunod na ang Baka Naman Pwede sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Radyo Katipunan. Radyo, 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 radyo Katipunan. Radyo Katipunan. Radyo Katipunan. Radyo, radyo, radyo Katipunan. Radyo, radyo, radyo Katipunan. Sa Blue Eagle kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay Atenista sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng kwela. Radyo, radyo, radyo Katipunan. Radyo, radyo, radyo Katipunan. Radyo Katipunan. Radyo Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugod, todo sa kayod, dunong at tulog. Lipat na Blue Eagle, galing giting nagigil. Blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, radyo, radyo Katipunan. Radyo, radyo, radyo Katipunan. Radyo Katipunan. Radyo Katipunan. Radyo, radyo, radyo Katipunan. Radyo Katipunan.
Baka naman pwede.
Baka naman pwede?
Baka naman pwede. Mga isyung napapanahon, ating pag-usapan. Baka naman pwede. Gamit ang mga pananaw mula sa iba't ibang kalinangan.
Baka naman pwede.
Mula sa Institute of Philippine Culture, kami inyong samahan tayo'y maghuntahan. Dito lang sa Baka Naman Pwede. Tuwing Huwebes, alas 3 ng hapon, dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Magandang hapon sa lahat. Nakikinig kayo ngayon sa Baka Naman Pwede, isang programa ng Institute of Philippine Culture o ng IPC at ng Radyo Katipunan na naglalayong pagnilayan ang mga napapanahong issue gamit ang lente ng agham panlipunan o social sciences. Nais din nating mapagkwentuhan ang mga bagay na baka naman pwede nating tignang muli, pag-ukulan ng pansin at aksyonan. Ako po si Rian Piamonte.
At ako si Doms Cordero.
Mula sa Institute of Philippine Culture at kami ang inyong magiging tagapagdaloy sa hapong ito.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Hello again. So, sa nakaraang live episode, nakasama natin sina Sir LJ Sanchez at Ma'am Iris Brillion upang pag-usapan ang queer representation sa Philippine media. Ayon sa aming mga panauhin, may kakulangan sa representasyon ang mga queer na tao sa media here in the Philippines. At kung sakaling mayroon man, madalas silang nakukulong sa mga stereotypes. Bagaman may kakulangan pa rin, ay patuloy na umuusbong ang representasyon mula na rin sa paglago ng mga makabagong platforms sa media. Platforms?
Sorry, te.
Marami ng pagbabago sa nakalipas na 5 taon. Tinalakay din sa episode na ito ang patuloy na pag-atake laban sa mga queer personalities. Binigyang diin nila na marami pa rin dapat gawin sa lipunan dahil kahit mas marami ng anyo ng representasyon ngayon at pinapakita ng media, patuloy pa rin ang diskriminasyon sa lipunang Pilipino, especially sa mga queer individuals. Sa huli, hinakayat ng mga panauhin natin ang madla na maging matapang at matalino sa pagsulong ng mga mas malawak na representasyon ng mga LGBTQIA+ Filipino sa media.
At para sa mga gustong balikan ang mga nakaraang episodes ng Baka Naman Pwede, mangyari lamang na bisitahin ang Facebook page ng IPC at ng Radyo Katipunan. Nako Doms, ngayong hapon, I think it's gonna be a fun episode.
Yes, it's gonna be so fun. And why is that, Rian?
Wait lang, bilang bahagi ng pagdiriwang pa rin ng One Big Pride, makakasama natin si Ma'am Kristine Santos upang pag-usapan ang boys love genre. Nako Doms, ano yung latest na napanood mong BL series or any content ng BL?
OMG. Actually, sobrang outdated ko na ngayon. Nakiki-update na lang ako sa Twitter, yung mga BL updates, ganyan-ganyan. Ang dami na na-overwhelm na ako sa Thai, sa Korean, sa Taiwanese. Pero I think yung pinaka-latest ko is yung episode 2 ng Only Friends.
Hala,
Yes.
updated din ako sa Only Friends.
The star-studded Only
Yes.
Friends.
Sobrang ang daming nangyayari. At speaking of maraming nangyayari, sa mga manonood natin sa Facebook, nako, pwede kayong sumali sa aming kwentuhan. Mangyari lamang na i-type ang inyong mga komento at katanungan sa comment section at babasahin namin ang mga ito sa ating Q&A portion mamaya.
Ngayon, hayaan yung ipakilala namin sa inyo ang aming bisita for today. So, si Kristine Michelle L. Santos ay isang assistant professor sa Department of History and Japanese Studies program at the Ateneo de Manila University. She is also the executive director of the Ateneo Library of Women's Writings. A cultural studies scholar and historian, her research examines women's queer literacies as seen in queer works such as Boys Love, which challenge gender and sexual norms in popular media. Her research follows the transnational flows and neoliberalization of these queer literacies from Japan and across Southeast Asia. She has also published in such journals as Critical Arts, Macadamia, and Porn Studies, as well as numerous edited collections. Sa ating mga tagapakinig at manonood, bigyan natin ng masigabong virtual na palakpakan si Dr. Kristine Michelle L. Santos. Welcome sa BNP, Ma'am Kristen. Nice to meet you too po. At maraming salamat po sa pagtanggap. And we're so excited to talk about our very special episode for today.
Ayan. Muli maraming salamat sa pagtanggap ng aming imbitasyon. Katulad ng nabanggit namin kanina, ang episode na ito ay bahagi ng ng ating celebration ng One Big Pride at ng UP Pride. Bago tayo siguro magsimula, Ma'am Kristen, baka naman pwede nyo kaming kwentuhan kung ano-ano mga pinagkakaabalahan ninyo nitong mga nakalipas na araw. What keeps you busy these days?
Bukod sa pagtuturo at sa pag-admin work, medyo marami akong ginagawa, marami rin akong episodes na nami-miss, no? Kaya paminsan-minsan na lang ako nakaka-consume din ng BL. Pag meron akong pag-weekend, no? Makakabasa ako ng isang webtoon or makakanood ng isang episode, no? So, yun yung aking siguro in relation sa conversation natin today, no? Yun yung ano. Tas actually, isa ring pinagkaabalaan ko kakatapos lang namin. Meron din kaming talk as part of the Loyola School's Gender and Development Committee on queer creativity. Ito naman ay next week sa October 18. Tingnan nyo na lang sa Facebook ng Loyola School. So, nandun yung announcement with One Big Pride. Ano siya, Zoom talk siya with a number of queer comic creators and illustrators. So, ano ba yung inspirasyon nila sa pagsulat ng mga queer comics, queer illustrations? Meron bang mga icons, color schemes na importante para maging ma-identifiable siya at queer? And so on and so forth. So, yun yung aking huling pinagkaabalan. Kakasend ko lang ng email kanina. So, baka makita nyo na yung mga posters along different Ateneo communities.
Exciting.
Ayun.
Sige po, ma'am. So, without further ado, let's get this conversation rolling about BL. And as an expert on BL.
Sino, ikaw o si ma'am?
Lahat tayo, I'm sure.
Si Ma'am,
Meron
syempre.
tayong iba't ibang expertise.
Ayan, pero sige, let's learn muna from the one with a PhD in BL. Ayan, so maybe you can give a crash course for our audience muna on what is BL?
So, BL, it stands for Boys Love. Nanggaling siya dun sa idea or konsepto, no, na at its finest, most purest meaning, it's basically a romance between two male characters, no? So the important aspect there is that it's a romance and that these are two male characters, no? It started sometime in the 1970s sa Japan. Basically, it was a time when young women were starting to create their own comics, and unfortunately, yung mga storya na nabasa nila, lagi na lang silang orphans. Lagi na lang ang mga heroines, they're either orphans, they are princesses. And at that time, a lot of the creators were thinking, bakit ganon? Ba't walang mobility yung women in terms of social access, knowledge access, pero ang men meron. And that's when they started to turn towards male bodies because they realized that it was more realistic for them to craft stories where men were able to mobilize in society, men were able to have relationships, no? And that came from there, no? So they started experimenting in women's comics, trying to see what are the romances that we can explore, no? And nung time na yun, medyo parang puro tragic ang kwento, no? Laging mga sad stories because that was the reality that they were also aware of at that time. At meron ding isang author, no, who basically said na actually sinulat ko yon kasi you know, some of us deal with sexual trauma, etc. And it was difficult for them to draw it using women's bodies kasi masyadong too close to home. So to a certain extent, they were using men's bodies to find strength, to find inspiration. And that was 1970s at a time when Japan was ultra-conservative. Over time, nag-develop siya, started from original comics. Later on, naging part siya ng fan culture, fan comics. Nandyan yung may mga shipping culture na nangyari. So sa Japan, ang pinakamalaking shipping culture nangyari sa slam dunk, no? And then later on in the 1990s, it grew. It actually went all over the world, went to places like Korea, Thailand, and then of course here sa Philippines. Lalo na nung mga later 2000s, no? So yun yung gist, no, ng BL.
It's interesting na nabanggit ni Ma'am na it's like using men's like physical attributes for to depict oppression and discrimination.
Yes.
Ang question ko naman, parang bakit boys love yung tinawag? Or like may term ba na ginagamit during the 70s to depict this kind of genre?
So marami siyang names over the years, no? Nagsimula siya actually it was inspired from a 1960s novel that referred to such kind of relationships as shonen ai. So shonen ai, pag tinranslate mo siya into English, boys love yung translation, no? And sometime in the 1980s, na-develop naman yung term na yaoi. Baka narinig niyo na yung yaoi or yaoi, no? Actually, the proper term is yaoi.
Yeah,
Yun.
yaoi.
Oo. So, yung yaoi naman, it means, in Japanese, it's yamanashi, ochinashi, minashi. No? Meaning, there's no peak, there's no point, there's no meaning. Ang point niya is, let's do whatever we want in the realm of fantasy. No? If we are exploring, if we are challenging gender, if we are challenging sexuality, let's go. Let's have fun. Let's push the boundaries. Pwede nating gawin yung characters in space. They fall in love in space. Pwede rin na yung characters, medyo mas type ko yung mga tragic love stories. Yun yung gusto kong i-explore, no? Or pwede rin silang in a high school setting, or, you know, and it was that kind of energy that helped diversify people's imaginations, not just women, no? It did start from women's culture, but later on, it was actively engaging with the gay community in Japan and many others, no? In fact, nung 1990s, some of the questions that we encounter online nowadays with regards to representation were also raised by the Japanese gay community, no? Bakit yung mga babae nagsusulat niyan, no? Bakit, you know, they don't own our bodies, no? Diba? Parang, but I think one thing interesting about those debates, no, that happened at the time was it opened a conversation. And yung conversation na yun is that's when men realized how restrictive women's expressions were, how to a certain extent, nakalimutan nga natin yung aspect of play in gender representation. And the world of BL is very generous and very giving in that world of play, no? Gusto kong mafia love story, no? Why not, no? Pwede, 'di ba? And it's that diversity, it's that broad imagination that really eventually, no, made members of the gay community in Japan happily engage with it, and then later on, especially as it went abroad, more and more people from the gay community become involved, no, in the production of boys love.
Such an interesting take kasi syempre maybe for me personally na someone who consumes BL but isn't necessarily aware of yung historical origins niya. Parang apaka-interesting isipin na itong BL is more of parang subversion siya of yung very male dominant literary scene sa Japan, and na apaka controversial but also very interesting tingnan na yung talagang subject ng female, imbes na ginamit nila yung sarili nilang personas at inangat yon, parang sinabi nila, sige, paglaruan na lang natin yung mga lalaki para masubvert yung power nila, no?
Yeah. Well, to a certain extent, there is that subversion of their power, pero at the same time, kung iisipin mo nung 1970s, a lot of these young women, yung mga creators na to, mga 16 sila, 17, 18, in terms of ano yung pwede nilang gawin bilang babae, no, sa Japan, napaka-limited talaga, no? So, at that time, hindi nila ma-imagine ang babae ba, pwede ba nilang gawin ito? Pwede ba silang sumakay sa tren na mag-isa, no, walang tulong, no? So, and hence, for them, it was easier to imagine na yung mga male characters baka mas possible sa kanila, no? And hence from there they started, and then they grew and expanded, no? But eventually, no, and ang magandang and interesting aspect of it is nung ginagawa yun ng mga babae, yung mga lalaki naman, they were also saying, ay, ganun din yung feeling namin about our bodies, and hence we go towards women's bodies. And doon naman actually na-develop yung yuri na genre, na which is also girls love, no, as we know it now, no. So it's quite interesting, no, how sometimes we're always very critical inward, no, and we look at other bodies, no, and then yung pala it happens in both ways, no? So
sige. Thank you for that very in-depth and super informative crash course on what BL is and where did it start. Maybe siguro yung papatanong namin ngayon is, can you pinpoint a certain point in time na talagang yung nag-boom yung BL outside of Japan since it started there nga, and when did it start and how did it reach other shores, and paano ba siya nag-develop as this global phenomenon that it is today?
So, meron tayong kailangang i-accept first, i-acknowledge, and that is the idea that at one point in our cultural history, maraming bagay ang hindi accessible sa region natin. And hence, we look towards places where we pirate these things, no?
Yes.
And the internet was very pivotal in that, no? Although marami ng BL na dinidistribute sa places like Taiwan and Korea in the 1990s kasi accessible sa kanila yung distribution, no? Pagdating dito sa Southeast Asia, mga unang, according to research ng isang koliko, si Thomas Bodinet, nabanggit niya na nung time na yon hindi masyado accessible, so there were a lot of pirated BL titles, no, that were being distributed in Thailand, maski dito sa Philippines, no. Siguro narinig niyo na yung mga konsepto ng scanlations, no, or mga scan websites. Kasi yun yung pinaka-accessible sa atin, no. Meron tayong, I guess, dito papasok yung intersectional aspect na meron tayong particular economic range, no, in terms of access to these kinds of queer works, and we depended on a lot of these informal avenues, no, for access. So yun yung kailangan natin acknowledge. We're not gonna be saints that saying lahat ng inaano natin ay legal, no?
Ay, hindi talaga.
Pero ngayon, ang maganda ngayon is because people know that that is the range of consumption that we do, marami ng avenues para pwede access yung BL. And I think from 1990s to early 2000s, we were all, getting BL through different venues. Nandyan yung I guess, my generation, na may mga kaibigan kaming bumiyahe sa Japan, pwede pang pabili ng comics, bibili sila ng comics, iuuwi nila, and then, meron din yung, kunyari, meron sa akong kaibigan na mabilis yung internet connection niya, pwede naman pa-download ng episodes ng ganito, or, ganyan, doon, no? And in fact, one of the fascinating things in my research and in my experience is, naging critical yung Facebook sometime in the middle of 2008s, 2010s in becoming a distribution network for a lot of this BL media emerging, lalo na yung mga nagagaling ng Thailand. No? Ang masaya pa doon is mga Pilipino yung nagmo-moderate, and they often would be the ones saying, this is what BL is, kanyan, this is what the genre is, ito yung pinakabagong BL sa Thailand, and so on and so forth. But I think at that stage, it was still underground, no? Mga 2008. In fact, here in the Philippines, meron tayong BL convention, no? That's been around since mid-2000s until last year. And yung pinaka-biggest boom niya talaga, no, was when, at least in terms of Thailand, no, which has been very important and critical in the diversification of BL. In Thailand, you now have companies who started experimenting with the genre. Nagkaroon ng publication ng tawag nila Y novels, no? Y based on yaoi, or also youth, no? Depending on how particular authors or publishers interpret it. But these are mga young love sweet, I don't know kung alam niyo pa yun, mga romance novels, no? That were written by, parang mga Wattpad novels ngayon, no? And they all publish it first online, and then there was a particular traction. Tas yung mga Wattpad novels na yun, mga Y novels sa Thailand, yun yung ginagawang television series. So they started experimenting with that, and one of the most successful ones was Sotos. No, and then with the success of Sotos, they now started looking at the different stories na pwede pa nilang and Sotos was a big hit, no? Hindi lang siya sikat sa Thailand back then, sumikat din siya dito, and then sumikat din siya sa Japan, no? So parang interesting kasi naging full circle, bumalik din siya sa Japan. But ang talagang dito sa Pilipinas, ang big hit natin ay si Together, no? Yun talagang nag-trend dito, etc. And in fact, we benefited from that kasi from Sotos onwards, they started releasing these on YouTube. Si GMM TV, naglabas sila sa YouTube, and then doon nakita na there's power in access to BL. There's, it gave much greater visibility to queer works and also to queer identities and images. No? So, yon ang sa atin sa Pilipinas, yun yung talagang kahit tita ko, parang ano ba yung together, no? Parang nung pandemic, yun yung kanilang mga bukang bibig. Sabi ko, tita, are you ready? Tita, may PhD ako nito. So, manda ka.
Ang saya. Anyway, ang grabe, no? From something that is underground, something na dina-download lang natin, it became this big industry.
Yeah. I mean, by the time that we were downloading it, medyo big time na siya sa Japan. Multi-billion industry na siya sa Japan. Pero ang problem is, medyo may malaking hurdle tayo. Kasi not all of us can understand Japanese, di ba? Medyo hirap tayo. Swerte na kung nakapag-Japanese language kayo nung college, no? Pero maski ganon, no? Hindi mo pa rin alam kung saan ka bibili, no? Parang dati pumupunta pa kami sa Japan Surplus hoping na makahanap kami isa-dalawang comic doon. No? Minsan sinaswerte kami, no? Minsan hindi. But it's that difficulty, no, of access that we were talking about. No? Ngayon medyo mas madali na. Tsaka marami na ring mga online distributors. Meron na ring, malaki na rin yung translation industry ng BL.
Actually, may dagdag ako na question. Kasi nabanggit nga na queer people started questioning about the BL genre. To whom is it for? And then nakwento nyo nga na going out of Japan, naging from underground to something that is a multi-billion company. Ang question ko lang, nung lumabas na ba sa Japan yung genre na ito, queer people na ba yung nagsusulat ng mga BL content, or it's still women writers?
So one of the biggest misconceptions on BL is that it's primarily written by women. Yes, there are women writers of BL, but actually we also don't know how many of them are queer or not. No, kasi in terms of writers, it's their privacy, no, to actually withhold whether they want to say that they're queer or not. Pero merong mga openly queer writers who would produce BL and who would use it to navigate different questions on queer identity, one of my colleagues would use the term shinkake, no? Shinkake would be transformative BL. Ito na yung BL that really looks into LGBTQ issues, really looks into representation, looks at how a community can strengthen one's identity and also be able to really capture, no, the heart of the gay community, no. So meron ng mga ganon. And so in Japan, we don't know how many are, queer, but based on a lot of research, maraming authors, creators, and consumers who said that in consuming BL, they were able to understand their own queer identities, no? They were also able to understand other people's queer identities, and nagkaroon ng interesting, I guess, cooperation yung pumasok sa utak ko, but there's an interesting understanding, no, between different communities, no. Kasi yun na nga, because napaka male-centric ng representation ng BL, ang perception natin is this has to be governed by men, no. But in the spirit of queer studies, where queerness is that challenges the norm, no. It doesn't necessarily have to be men who also have to navigate, no, this space. There can be broader expressions of queerness, no, and that can come from women, they can also come from men, they can also come from queer individuals, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oo.
Siguro building off of yung tanong ni Rian about yung sino nga ba yung nagsusulat, sino yung nagko-consume. Prior to the filming of this episode, kasi nag-uusap na kami ni ma'am, and ang natanong ko is, ano ba yung mga ilang issues na hinaharap ng BL ngayon, and what it is being criticized for lately, and isa doon is yung fetishization nga ng male bodies, dahil nga ang perception ng maraming viewers and ng consumers nung BL media ay na primarily and predominantly puro women yung nagsusulat and nag-create ng ganitong content. So maybe Ma'am Kristen can shed more light on this issue and maybe give us more facts to ano.
In terms of fetishization, this is quite an interesting issue kasi to be honest, we have to understand na ang BL ay isang romance genre and is also a fantasy genre. It explores people's fantasies and desires. And because of this, the male bodies here are actually male characters. And in fact, over the years, the male body may be seen as male, but it has actually transformed into other figures. So meron na ring mga demons, meron na ring mga cats and dogs, no? And this is all part of what one of our colleagues would mention as fantasy play, no? That is included and encouraged in BL. Yung mga boundaries of gender, talagang pino-push back niya. Sige, sabihin nating boys love ngayon, pero part din yan, pwedeng cats love, no? Pwedeng demon and the priest love, no? And it's that fantasy aspect that is often forgotten within the understanding of BL. Kasi yung spectrum ng BL, no, it's not limited to the identity politics, yung LGBTQ representation, no. It is one and very important part, and there are titles that do tackle that, but there are also titles that tackle pushing the boundaries of queer, no, identity and queer play, no. Kasi in terms of, for example, representations of masculinity, no, one of my favorite titles or comics that came out from BL is this title called Smells Like Green Spirit. No? That was a title where coming of age title, and the main character was basically exploring the use of lipstick, etc., and actually embracing their feminine side. That title was quite powerful in a sense that it shows how the genre was not limiting itself to, ay, kasi si boy A, boy B, yun na, no? Nagkaroon talaga ng proseso, no? Ng pag-acknowledge ng kanyang pag-transform, yung kanyang transition, no? And kanyang, I guess, gender awakening, no? And that is, naiyak ako doon kasi that student in that story went through a lot, but at the same time, it was powerful because you can also see how strong they are, how resilient they are, and how, of course, they need the support system. So that is one BL story. There's another BL story that I also love, which is a question of a lizard and a cat falling in love. No, comic din to. It's called Monotone Blue. No, and how can we imagine lizards and cats in a world, right? Meron ba tong fetish, etc.? No, it's more really about questioning about the body. Here's a lizard saying, there's nothing about me that's worth loving. And to a certain extent, these are things that queer people also question, right? Nothing about me is worth loving. I have scales, no? This isn't my body. But the cat is like, but again, falling on the idea a BL is romance. It's the idea that these two characters are creating a connection together, are developing a strong relationship together. And for BL, yun yung pinaka-importante, no? I guess we're all stuck on this idea of BL being mostly, no, for men's representation and men's bodies, no, and it is still an integral part of it, but it is, of course, a fictional genre, no, and hence merong ganong dynamics in play. There are real aspects to it, but there are also fantasy aspects to it, and that's where I guess yung notion of fetishization comes in, because when you're dealing with fantasy, no, really you're pushing the boundaries of play, you're really pushing the boundaries of what is desirable, etc. But interestingly, no, a lot of that also emerges from BL that's also produced by men, but also in LGBTQ
Yeah.
comics, no? Nandun din yung fetishization, no? And hence, it's really part of the definitions of desire, no? Diba? Na even gay men can desire and fetishize, not really fetishize, but can desire, no? These kinds of bodies that are perceived as fetishized, no? And minsan nanonormalize siya, minsan parang de. Change natin yan, no? But they are there. You can Google me and find my academic article. Medyo nandun siya sa, binanggit kong porn studies, that's why I tackled that topic. No? So, yun.
Ayun. Siguro, since ako yung nagtanong kanina, in response lang, maybe parang, not naman in defense of my question, but more of parang, siguro kasi yun nga yung important na we realize that BL is such a wide, such a broad genre. And a lot of people forget nga yung comic side of it. Kasi ako rin, sobrang love ko yung manhwa side of BL. And dun nga napupush a lot of the fantasy genres and a lot of the play elements. Siguro kasi nabibring up lang yung critique recently is because sobrang yung aspect ng BL that is I think very much commercialized right now and is the more popular parang mode is yung sa parang live action series ngayon where we see parang real actors acting out these scenes and parang it's hard parang siguro the critique comes from it's hard to separate na yung fantasy and reality when you see actual people playing the part and you see parang how, especially sa GMM-TV, na you see parang stereotypically handsome characters yung kinakast nila. Very masculine characters, in fact. And even here in the Philippines, nung parang kinuha natin yung... hindi naman kinuha, pero parang nung naging pinick up natin yung genre recently, parang ganun yung nagiging trend. Even in Korea, na a lot of it is very masculine actors. A lot of it is...
And I think one interesting aspect there as well is ano yung definition ng masculine, diba? And I think one of the interesting dimensions of BL is yung idea na to all BL stories, laging merong concept of the bishonen or the beautiful character, the beautiful male character. That was something that the girls did because parang it was accessible to them stylistically. It was also easier for them to kind of imagine and play, no? But over the years, this has changed. But yun yung nagiging problem, no? How do we define, what is a beautiful man? What is a beautiful person, no? And unfortunately, we are still trapped under very patriarchal notions of masculinity, no? Ito dapat yung, medyo ayoko siya kasi medyo effeminate yung kind of, representation, no? I'm not saying that is how it should be. I do believe it should diversify. But we also have to try hard to lobby for these other characters, other forms of representations, other forms of masculinity, diba? But it's hard to fight a system that has very strong perceptions of what masculinity should be. We should, I think, pwede nating mag-push back, we can demand it, no? I often ask my friends when I first started watching BL, bakit yung parang bakla ng Thai BL, parang laging ganun na lang yung characters nila.
Laging comic relief.
Laging comic relief.
Si Jenny ba yun? Oo,
si Jenny Panhan.
Oo,
Oo, diba? Na sabi ko, ba't parang ganun din? Parang they're also parang sinasantabi na lang sila katulad ng mga bakla, no? Sa mga television shows natin, lagi sila yung comedic relief, etc., no? And I think, dapat talaga, no, i-diversify yung... I mean, we cannot control with Thailand, no? Kasi Thailand also has its own gender politics and identity politics in play. But here in the Philippines, it would be great to see, diverse set of characters finding love, finding romance, whether it's in fantasy, whether it's in a much more rooted LGBTQ moment and so on. That would be very empowering for many members of the gay community.
So true.
Oo.
I think ang ganda nung na-mention niya, ma'am, na here in the Philippine context, parang may question ako na siguro burning question siya sa akin. Kasi noong 2020, like, after Together, di ko alam kung tama yung pagkaka-frame ko. But after Together, doon ko nakita na mas naging aggressive or mas naging talagang gustong i-push ng mga creators na gumawa ng mga BL series here in the Philippines. My question is, parang bakit biglang nag-dwindle down siya more recently?
You know, there's this interview si Sir Danton Remoto in a different podcast. At sinabi niya na-enjoy niya yung BL kasi finally, ang mga bakla hindi namamatay sa ospital, hindi binabarel, no? Parang meron silang forever, no? And that was something, no, na-enjoy niya daw sa Thai BL. And I think a lot of people resonated with that. We all wanted to see stories like that. And there is that pushback, definitely, no? Kung bakit siya nawala, why we had the time to afford it, no? To create those works was because nung time ng pandemic, yung mga normal, I guess, studio systems where members of the gay community may have been a part of or are working as part of, lahat sila busy, no? Lahat sila were suddenly without a job. Nandiyan yung nawala si ABS-CBN and so on. So, they now had time and opportunities to do that, no? But now that...
Parang naging passion projects nila.
Naging passion project. And I think that was really good. Parang, grabe, namangha ako sa Game Boys. Nung lumabas yun, parang, how could you... Parang, ang galing to imagine love in the middle of the pandemic, 'di ba? Na nung nandiyan nagkita sila sa Ortigas and so on, 'di ba?
Parang yung plastic pa.
Yung plastic sa Ortigas, grabe
diba?
yun.
That was the time, pero all of us were swept in that parang we were all now swept in that fantasy na can we just have something good in our lives in this pandemic, 'di ba? And it came at the perfect time. As for why it dwindled down, yun na nga, in terms of production, a lot of them got back to their studio work, and then hence, hindi na sila ulit makafocus sa projects. Others, I think, nawala din yung aspect of trying to build what should a romance look like, no? The reality about BL is ang romance niya napaka-simple lang, pangkilig factor lang siya, no? But sometimes there are people who are also looking for much more complex narratives and medyo, siguro some people didn't find that appealing, no? Yung parang in terms of storyline, etc., no? And it didn't hold water, no? And yeah, but ang alam ko from people, it's the production aspect, no? That was really affecting quite a lot of the BL productions that were on their way, etc. But sana bumalik, honestly, no? Parang na-miss ko siya. Parang after Guys sa Pelikula, after a couple of other Pinoy BL, parang sana magkaroon pa tayo, no? Maski movie man lang.
Parang recently, yung ano na ba yung latest Pinoy BL na alam ko is probably yung, hindi ko siya napanood, parang 1,000 Stars, something, na actually maganda yung plot niyan. I watched a few episodes. Hindi. Hindi Earth Mix. Hindi Atele pa 1,000 Stars.
Iba, yun.
Hindi yun. Parang ito, set siya in a high school. Tapos, natuwa ako actually kasi yung main character doon, for once, bakla siya. Yung feminine na maharot na flamboyant. Tapos yung parang kapartner niya, yung parang typical, parang si Sign, yung parang tahimik na stoic na cute dog puppy lover. Tapos parang ginawa siyang movie recently. And I think that was the last BL I saw from
that was
us.
also the last one. Sayang nga, hindi na tuloy yung momentum. And hopefully, hopefully we'll have more opportunities. Maybe other creators would be inspired to do it, no? Again, maski as long as maganda naman yung kwento, no? Ang one thing interesting then with BL culture, a lot of that always resides on very gung-ho, very amateur, independent, productions, no? From maski when the young women started it in Japan, and even, to the time when we were producing Game Boys, it was very much on a level wherein we try to make it work, no? We try to find different means and avenues to make it work, no? So nandun naman yung spirit niya, and I hopefully matuloy pa siya. Although ngayon, ang mga nakikita ko, mga TikTok, puro mga short TikTok videos, mga Philo AU sa Twitter, mga gano'n na lang, no? But, yeah.
Yeah, sad nga kasi nung pandemic, more than the episodes themselves, yung mga pinapanood ko yung Game Boys, pati ano yung kanila to nila Brusca?
Ano?
Gaya sa pelikula?
Hindi.
No. Ano,
Parang Boy Next Door ba yun? Something?
hindi.
Next door ba? Search natin.
Anyway, basta yun, di ba, ang dami niya at the same time,
Oo.
yung mga series na yun. Tapos, more than the episodes themselves, ang pinapanood ko doon yung reactions,
Oo.
yung mga comments ng mga tao, di ba?
Actually,
Yes.
yun yung nakakamiss din, di ba? The community that
Hello,
supported.
stranger.
Yun, hello, stranger. There you go. Oo. It's the community. Actually, doon ako natuwa kasi all of a sudden, I have friends na alam ko namang may mga girlfriends, pamilyado, etc. Biglang magme-message sa akin, oh, ayan, dapat nanonood na kami ng BL. Sabi ko, ano yan? Nanonood kayo ng BL? Oo. And then they'll start talking to me about the series that they watch. And I'm like, wonderful. Watch more. Invite your other friends to enjoy it. Kasi yun na nga, ang maganda sa kanya is it's really representing, a part of it is it offers us a wonderful narrative of the possibilities of queer romance, diba? Whether sa Philippine setting, whether sa Thai setting, Taiwan setting, Korean setting, or Japan. No? But the fact that we can finally see it, the fact that we can all enjoy it, is, I think, something powerful. No? And hopefully, I mean, at that moment, I felt na nagda-diversify, yung audience ng BL. Hindi lang yung mga hardcore BL fans or something, no? It's actually now looking at naalala ko, no, yung mga Lenny rally, no? Mga BL fans for Lenny, no? Meron akong nakikitang mga ganon. So, it was nice, no? Tsaka, nandun din sila. Some of the actors were part of the rallies, no? And they were, outrightly representing the genre, the culture, and the community.
Yeah, a lot of people actually consider, kasi nga nag-boom siya nung pandemic, di ba, yung BL dito sa Philippines. Parang kinoconsider nila na very new yung queer representation here. Ang question ko is, would you consider as BL yung mga nauna na mga parang male-to-male romance films and shows here in the Philippines? Like, we have, of course, the iconic My Husband's Lover. Tapos we have movies like Sagwan. We have movies like Haplos ng Langit.
Oh, yeah.
Yung mga ganon. Would you consider them BL?
Well, the thing is, BL, as I said, no, as a romance genre, meron din siyang mga specific tropes na sinusundan, no? So, sa akin, I think it comes with the producer's intention. Ginusto ko pa do as part of this BL genre. For example, nung lumabas yung My Husband's Lovers, kinilig naman ako. Parang, oy, baka ito na yung BL na nihintay-hintay natin, diba? But the author themselves didn't want to associate with the BL genre. So, because of that, hindi na natin pilitin, diba? In the same way, like for example, sa Japan, clear-cut sa kanila kung alin yung LGBTQ content at alin yung BL. And it's not because of the women creators, but rather it's because of the industrial or the commercial intent, no, as part of the genre. Because it is a media genre. Para yung science fiction, di ba? Hindi naman lahat ng science fiction, masasabi mo science fiction, na hindi lahat ng fantasy, ganun, di ba? So, it really comes with that creative intent. Do I want it to be part of this genre? If it's part of this genre, it will follow particular, I guess, stereotypes. Nandiyan yung, meron kasi in BL, in my study, I basically mapped out that there are fundamental literacies that would make a BL title a BL title. So one is that it must contain handsome characters, the bishonen, no? Ito yung kailangan may gwapo, no? But again, ang maganda dito is nagda-diversify yung definitions ng gwapo. The second part is itong mga gwapong characters na to, meron silang relationship. And it's usually, in Japan, they define that with the equation seme x uke. No? Some of you may have heard of that, where seme would be defined as someone who is giving affection, and uke is the person who is receiving the affection, no? Merong mga older definitions na sa sinasabi na yung seme dapat yan yung maton, and yung uke yun yung effeminate, no? But that is not the case anymore, no? Nag-iiba na rin yung definition because of the third quality of BL, which is that it is intertextual, no? Ano yung intertextual? It comes from may feminist aspect to it, there's a queer aspect to it, no? Yung feminist aspect came from Julie Kristeva. Sabi niya, ang para maging intertextual ang isang bagay, kailangan i-challenge mo kung ano yung original meaning niya. And if it's the meaning of masculinity, how can we challenge masculinity? How can we challenge romance, no? And lagi niyang nandun yung aspect of play, no, ng fantasy sa BL. And it's because of that, no, that pag nakita namin na, okay, paano niya nilaro yung characters, paano niya nilaro yung setting, that's where we start defining this is a title that is BL, no, at least in terms of a media genre. Hence, for things like, for example, Love of Siam, they would talk about, na-inspire kami, no, from BL. But actually, it falls on a greater locus of LGBTQ, no, media, etc. So, kumbaga parang proto-BL siya, mga ano, or it's actually probably more appropriate to call it for what it is, which is their LGBTQ media, no? And I think there is that strong intent naman to really distinguish what it's for and what it represents, and I think for the creators back then, it would be nice to acknowledge that as well.
Actually, may gusto kong i-pick up na question from what Doms asked. Kasi parang, nanonood kasi ako sa Netflix ng mga, male love male din na mga series like Heartstopper and Young Royals. Ang question ko, like, can we call them as BL? Or is there like a more ethnicity?
For me, no.
Well, the author of Heartstopper has made it known that they do not appreciate BL works for the different reasons that we find to be, at least among myself and my other fellow BL scholars, no, na we find it to be a very myopic view of what queerness should be, no. Yung queerness sa akin, especially lalo yung Asian queerness, wala siya masyadong representation. And unfortunately, you have these big name titles like Heartstopper, yung isa, Red, White, and Blue ba yun? Yung Royals.
Elite.
No, that have framed their queerness within Western notions. Dapat ito lang yung kaya mong queer identity. Hindi nila nakikita na meron ding tayong sariling queer expressions dito sa Asia. One that allows us to navigate, are very, mas hindi tayo, liberal kumpara sa Britain and other countries, diba? Mas conservative tayo. And parang we have to find a way to navigate this, no, safely, to ensure na we can still be ourselves, we can still also enjoy the different forms of queer media that we enjoy, na hindi lang siya nililimit dun sa Western notion of queerness, but also to Asian notions of queerness, or Philippine notions of queerness.
That's so nice to hear validated. Kasi nga ako rin personally, sobrang against ko dun sa parang pag-equate nung queerness sa West sa atin. Kasi we really have different categories. We have different local notions of gender, of sexuality, of expression. Sobrang local nila. And although BL nga is parang transnational dahil nga more Southeast Asian, parang at least it's a little bit more local than the global parang queerness na parang ina-advocate ng more Western media na parang this should be how queerness should be represented everywhere. Parang ganun yung pinaparating a lot of times na parang we do have to adapt the LGBTQIA plus categories. So, and in fact, parang there's so much more to that. And ako personally, as a Filipino queer individual na apakagulo nung alphabet soup na yun.
Oo.
Na hindi siya a lot of times nagbe-make sense.
Mm-mm.
And na we do really need to recognize na some things should remain local and should parang be appreciated as just this and distinguish them from other forms of media na have different intent and show different experiences. Kasi nga, BL for me is so, parang mas specific siya to our Asian experience.
Kung anong nagpapatibok ng puso mo.
Yes.
Yun yung importante, di ba?
Ano pa ba? What's your favorite BL?
What's my favorite BL? I'm not sure kung napanood niyo siya sa Netflix. Technically, hindi siya BL sa Japan because but the author has written quite a lot of BL titles. And this is one of her most popular works, yung What Did You Eat Yesterday? So,
Hindi ko siya napapanood.
cute siya.
You're missing out.
Cute.
Is it live action?
It's live
Yeah, live
action.
action.
So, What Did You Eat Yesterday is this gay Japanese couple that live together. Yun din, nagnanavigate sila. Isang lawyer, isang hairstylist. Si lawyer, hirap siyang sasabihin ko ba sa mga office mates ko na bakla ako, etc. Sa introduce ko ba yung partner ko? Yung partner ko naman parang go na go. Sige lang, you know. Lahat ng mga customers ko, alam nila kung sino yung boyfriend ko, no? But it's quite an interesting story because it now deals with family dynamics because of, you know, how do middle-aged gay couples, you know, navigate the relationship, especially, you know, and maraming nangyayari while eating good food, no? So, yun siya. What Did You Eat Yesterday? Nasa Netflix siya. Not that we're supporting, nasa gagaulala din siya.
Ikaw, Rian, what's your favorite BL?
Buti na lang sinerch ko siya. Actually, like, anytime every time na tinatanong sa akin to, lagi kong sinasagot, I told Sunset about you.
Yes.
Okay.
That's in my top 5
Like,
as well.
Hindi pa siya napapalitan sa top 1 spot ko. Like, ewan ko. Sobrang saya niya kasi I told Sunset about you tells the story of OL and Te, which are like these two former best friends nung elementary, and then since ayun nga si Te wants to be a theater actor or like a Chinese actor o ganun, Chinese play actor. Gusto niya makuha yung this one role in their grade school play na nakuha ni OL. So dun sila nag friendship breakup, and then nag-meet sila ulit right before their college examinations. Anyway, mahaba na ako.
Sige, gusto mo ba? Mapadagdag tayo airtime.
Wait lang nga, yung airtime natin. Anyway, gusto ko lang tanungin, ikaw, Doms, ano yung favorite BL mo?
Actually, ang hirap kasi I don't really have favorites in anything. Pero, syempre, something that holds dear into my heart is my very first BL. Yung gateway BL ko was Max Tool kasi, ano yun? Together With Me, the original Together. Yes. Together With Me. Na-enjoy ko siya dahil, una, ang pogi ni Tool.
Well,
True.
Diba? Masokista ako. At nagsasakitan lang sila buong drama na yun.
Oo, yun yung important. Kung ano yung one important thing with BL is affective siya,
Yeah.
no? Kung ano yung nararamdaman mo, kung saan pumapanig yung puso mo, no? Kung saan tumitibok, kung saan ka kinikilig.
Yes.
Own it, enjoy it, at, you know,
But I think yung
that's what makes it powerful.
na-appreciate ko ngayon recently is a Korean BL, yung Light on Me. Have you
Ako naman
watched?
semantic error.
Oh, yeah. Semantic
error.
errors. Up there. But Light on Me kasi, for me, is siguro kasi high school yung scenario nung Light on Me, and siguro ako na parang may mga sarili din akong fantasies and projections on how I wanted my own high school romance to have played out. Di na kita isa-shoutout kung sino ka man. Pero ayun, yung mga gano'n na parang it really allowed me to parang converse with myself and really parang therapy na din siya for my own past na parang what could have been, and something that maybe I shouldn't have settled for less, ganon. Kasi it is possible for us queer individuals to find love and happiness and not have to beg for it or like
Yes.
demand for it, but just
Yes.
simply receive it and experience it. Ganon.
So,
Yes. So ayun, since now na napag-usapan na natin yung mga favorites natin, maybe we can reflect on as a closing
Yeah.
for our episode na parang yung may mga sarili tayong favorites and sariling interests and why we like these episodes, and maybe we can reflect on why BL has become so impactful for us personally, and maybe on a grander scale of why BL is important now, why is queer media important now, and how can it how is it changing society for the better, and how can queer media, especially BL, change pa for the better of society. Ganun.
Yeah. Wow, pang Miss Universe ang
Yes.
ang sagot, no. But siguro one of the things that I hold very important in my study is the idea na one, BL is a queer media, and as a queer media, it is reparative, no? It is there to actually get rid of all of the paranoias we have with regards to things that are unfamiliar to us. Kasi ang queerness, it's always, queerness is something that is always against the norm, something that is different from the norm, no? And unfortunately, no, yung society natin, it really holds onto the fear of the unknown, no? But with queer media such as BL, no, the idea there is we're going to repair a lot of these fears, that we are now trying to change these fears with opening people's minds to the various possibilities, no, of the unknown, of difference, no. And I think that's where it becomes really impactful and powerful, no. Kapag tayo ay nagbukas loob dito sa pagkakaiba ng mga tao, no? Pagkakaiba ng ating mga sexualidad, pagkakaiba ng ating mga gender, no? And that we also try to accept, no? Yung mga iba't ibang preferences ng mga tao. One would like, pagiging masokista, yung isa mas gusto nila mas pang middle age yung or the others would prefer young romance and so on. No? These are differences, and we can all accept and enjoy this. And I think itong reparative quality ng queer media is what really will, I think, change and transform the world. No? Because as we find ways to get rid of our fears, the more ways we can find, ways to enjoy and appreciate our differences in life. No? So, yeah.
Wow.
Pwede na ba?
A virtual round of
Carry na
applause,
po.
Carry na.
please, for Ma'am
Pakibigyan po
Kristen.
ng virtual na masugabong palakpakan.
Si Ma'am Kristen. At ayan, baka pwede na tayo magbigay pasalamat sa ating guest speaker for today. Maraming salamat po sa ating bisita para sa isang napakayamang at napakasarap talakayan sa hapong ito. Ayun. So, maybe, since we have a little bit more time left, ginagawa namin ito sa Baka naman pwede. Baka bago tayo matapos, humingi muna tayo ng konting pabaon mula, not just from Ma'am Kristen, baka pwede from us na din. Simulan natin ang sagot sa baka naman pwedeng, and maybe let's phrase this for, ano yung message natin for BL as a media empire, or maybe like baka naman pwede for what we aspire for queer media in the future. Kayo po, Ma'am Kristen.
Siguro, baka naman pwede tayong ituloy ang ating pag-explore sa iba't klaseng mga romance fiction, including BL, no? Kasi sa tingin ko, ngayon, kailangan natin itong mga pantasya sa panahon ng taghirap, 'di ba? At siguro sa paglawak natin ng mga iba't ibang mga narratives na nakikita natin sa media, sana baka naman pwedeng isama na rin, no, ang mga iba't ibang relationship, not just BL, pwede ring GL, no? At syempre iba't ibang representasyon ng masculinity and femininity, no?
Ikaw, Rian.
Baka naman pwedeng palawakin natin ang ating horizon
Okay.
pagdating sa mga relasyon, at baka naman pwede na ring i-air ang mga queer content sa mas mainstream na media.
True.
Because we need these stories to be told. Ikaw, Doms, ano ang baka naman pwede mo?
Ang sa akin, baka naman pwedeng huminay-hinay sa episodes yung GMMTV. Hindi na ako makakip up. At yung mga Koreano dyan, pwede ba, paunti-unti muna ng BL. Para naman, ma-enjoy natin yung moment na to
Yes.
of the accessibility of queer media.
Ayan. At dito na nga nagtatapos ang baka naman pwede. Maraming salamat muli kay Ma'am Kristine para sa
Salamat din.
pagpapaunlak sa aming imbitasyon. Baka naman pwede nyo ring i-like ang Institute of Philippine Culture sa Facebook para sa iba pa naming announcement at events. Hanggang sa susunod,
Ako si Doms Cordero.
at ako si Rian Piamonte mula sa IPC. Patuloy tayong mag-ingat. Nako, stay safe mga mare. At
In
laging
more ways than
tandaan.
one. Yes, true.
At laging tandaan, kung may gustong maunawaan, baka naman pwede nating pag-usapan. Maraming salamat po. Magandang hapon sa ating lahat.
Thank you.
Salamat.
Baka naman pwede.
Baka naman pwede.
Baka naman pwede. Mga isyung napapanahon, ating pag-usapan. Baka naman pwede. Gamit ang mga pananaw mula sa iba't ibang kalinangan.
Baka naman pwede.
Mula sa Institute of Philippine Culture, kami inyong samahan, tayo'y maghuntahan. Dito lang sa Baka Naman Pwede. Tuwing Huwebes, alas 3 ng hapon, dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
3 o'clock prayer. You died, Jesus.